Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another Spotlight interview with Global Thought Leaders, an initiative by RightSource Global. I am Zishan Pathan, Director at RightSource Global and a Council member of Global Thought Leaders. Along with me, I have my colleague, friend, and a Council member of Global Thought Leaders, Heval Mehta, Chief Growth Officer at RSG. Global Thought Leaders is a platform for industry stalwarts to cross pollinate with their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices to inspire each other and future leaders. Through spotlight interviews, we strive to bring the community of eminent personalities together from across the globe. We collate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by proliferating brains in a nutshell. We bring the expertise of various functions, roles, and sectors together on one platform to inspire future leaders. We have one such industry stalwart today on Spotlight with us, Hema Mani. Hema is a renowned individual in cutting-edge technology domain. I would request Havel to introduce our today's eminent personality. Over to you, Havel.
Well, thank you so much, Zishan, for this wonderful opportunity. Well, yeah, Hema ideally does not require any introduction, but yeah, taking this opportunity to introduce Hema today. Hema has over 25 years of experience in strategic human resources capacity with wide-ranging multinational experiences from Kelly Consultants, PriceWaterhouseCoopers, Jain Group of Institutions, I2 Technologies, and Honeywell. She is a certified Korn Ferry leadership architect and coach, Lean Sigma Green Belt assessor, and certified OD Facilitator. She is currently heading the Asia Pacific HR at Lennox International, part of her responsibility in Lennox India and Asia sourcing leadership team. She spends considerable time in focusing on talent development in these regions and developing them into global team of excellence. She is committed to the cause of diversity. She has recently launched the LGBTQ plus initiative at Lennox India. Under her leadership, Lennox India has won several honors of HR, such as 13 Best Workplaces in Tamil Nadu by Times of India, 100 Best Places to Work for Women in India 2016 by Avatar, Best Places to Work in Chennai by Economic Times, Best Games-Based Learning Programs by TISS, and Dream Companies to Work in 2016 by Times Ascent. Best Community Engagement Award by Economic Times. More recently, Lennox was certified as the top 100 great places to work under her leadership. She is current chairwoman of CII Indian Women Network in Chennai, and part of her role, she is focused on develop leadership talent among women, mentoring initiative, gender parity, diagnostic and facilitation in corporations of posh activities. She was one of the founding members of Mahavir Academy of Technology and Sciences, part of the Jain Group of Institutions. Here, she was responsible for developing the HR curriculum for postgraduate studies in collaboration with industry and academic experts. As a member of board of XIME Chennai and plays a vital role in developing the HR curriculum for the group. As part of XIME, she mentors and coaches young HR talent. She has represented on topics of human sciences in forums of IHRD, NHRD, ISTD, and SHRM. She has published a couple of papers on execution excellence in HR, which is compiled into journal released by Indian Institute of Science, and another one on innovative learning strategies was recognized by NASCOM. She is recognized as one of the 30 women superachievers by World HRD Congress. More recently, she has been an active volunteer and meditator with Isha Foundation. Well, that's really an amazing and inspirational introduction, I would say. Well, we welcome Hema for the spotlight today.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me here.
Great. So, Hema, the journey itself is so inspiring, and behind every successful journey that we cover, there is an unheard story, right? And we really want to bring that story to our viewers where they get inspired by what you have done in past, right? So, Hema, just for the understanding of the viewers, we would like to know what are the key highlights of your journey from the beginning of your career till the current role of regional director at Lennox India Technology Center?
Well, thanks for asking that, Zishan. At the start, I would say I didn't have, kind of a Superman kind of a lifestyle that, it took me from one stage to another stage. I would say with each opportunity, Zishan, I got very early on in my career. I realized that if I did well in that one opportunity, there would be another richer one that will be waiting for me, and I will look out for that. So I really didn't go into my career with a very planned thought. Although what was very clear in my mind very earlier on was I really needed to do extremely well in the job that I was given at that point of time, and the fact that that would give me the next opportunity to grow further. So I come in from a middle class background, Zishan, a single child to my family. So obviously my parents were extremely ambitious for me, and they did everything, in their capacity and in their power to give me the right environment, support me the way with my dreams and my aspirations. Never said no. I never recollect my parents ever saying, no, beta, you can't do this, right? Although, being very orthodox, conservative family where we belong to, they did nurture that their daughter would some fine day become a doctor in a medical profession. They had those aspirations. However, I chose to do something very different. I was totally clueless when I began my journey just out of college. I really didn't know what I wanted. But when I was doing my MBA, something struck, and something that I gathered about myself was I could do very well in the space of, where people are involved. I could do very well in a space where it is about nurturing people, or, really sharing my knowledge with people. I knew that very early on in my, as a student. And of course, that led me to my job in human resources. I started out with Kelly Consultants as a recruiter. And one thing that I think I was quite fortunate, Havel, was I was always surrounded by fantastic leaders, right from my very first job. Purnima Das used to be my leader at Kelly Consultants, and just observing them and making them as your role models, much like Ekalavya. So I would really observe these fantastic leaders around me, whether it's Purnima Das in Kelly Consultants, Shrikant Lonikar in Honeywell, Krishna in Honeywell, and even right now with Prakash Bedapudi, who's our CTO. I just observe them, and I think somewhere keep imbibing the right practices to be a great leader. And I often say this to everybody, Zishan, that I'm a complete product of feedback. The last 27 years, the way I have really taken off on my career or whatever I did, I think I'm a complete package of feedback. If you remove the feedback, I'm probably a broken shell within, but it's feedback that's brought me here. And I really thank each one of them. And today is Guru Purnima, and there's never a better day to thank all of them. So really, each one of them have made me what I am.
Great. In fact, I would say that this is a key takeaway from this conversation that I have is, your feedback really matters when you really want to learn and grow, right? So Hema, you brought in a lot of change in the organizations that you have worked, right? So what are the key changes you brought in your function to make it more efficient and effective, especially when you're working in a mechanical and industrial engineering space?
Yeah, I think change is part of any organic growth, Zishan. I think each one of us, all of you also have been in the industry for far too long, and if the business has to transform itself, change is almost permanent. You have to be willing to accept that change. And you have to be almost somebody who is addicted to wanting change, and especially it's become much more apparent these days, where we are going through this pandemic. The last 2 years, I think each one of us have experienced change in such a dynamic fashion, and look at what businesses are doing. We never knew the way businesses are thriving like the way it's doing today. Just yesterday I was seeing Zomato's IPO getting oversubscribed. Whoever thought, right? It's about really embracing change and walking along with it. Coming back to your question, Zishan, yes, I have been fortunate or been party to several change transformations throughout my career journey. Right when I was with PriceWaterhouseCoopers, back then when I joined, I was part of PriceWaterhouse, and it was during the second year of my tenure there that Coopers and Lybrand, which was another big five financial firm, got merged with Pricewaterhouse. And then, it got formed into PricewaterhouseCoopers that we know today, or PwC that we know today. So very early on, I saw how organizations, come together. And it's not just about bringing processes together as much as it is about bringing people together, bringing cultures together, identifying the mutual compatibility in leadership and putting together. Of course, I never took decisions back then. I was still a raw junior, just observing how this whole merger took place. But those learnings helped me. When I came into Honeywell, one of the significant transformations we had was in HR. Honeywell back then, when I joined, we were about 650 employees. When I left, we were about 13,000 employees spread across India. And the technology center that I was part of had operations globally. So I witnessed a major HR transformation, from being a very locally decentralized HR practice to how do you look at HR as a model where you have shared services, you have manager and employee direct access, and then you have business HR partnering. It literally gave me an on-field experience of what Dave Ulrich finally, hugely, made it so popular on the business partnering model. But I was witness to that in Honeywell. I brought all those learnings into Lennox India. So I was a very early employee here at Lennox India. And the fantastic thing about Lennox India is the company, the global company, the mothership almost gave us a clean canvas for me to paint the way we wanted to build the culture here, or we wanted to build the leadership here. It's now almost 12 years here, Zishan, and each year has been extremely different from the previous year. In the initial years, it was just about setting up teams, hiring the right leadership talent. And then as we mature, it was about bringing in new capabilities into the organization, setting up the labs for the company, working with partnerships with universities, and then trying to see how our talent can play a very significant role in the global company. We today have become centers of excellence. The other day, both of you visited our office. We are major centers of excellence in many spaces in mechanical engineering, many spaces in IT and controls. So all these it's almost made me addictive to change. Today, if I don't see something happening, I'm like, well, we've stopped growing. We should do something about this. So I, for one, enjoy change. I, for one, thrive in change. I love working in a space which is very, very abstract, and then try to figure out the road or try to carve the road for myself. It's a very exciting thing to be part of a change. Of course, it's fearsome. You don't know what will happen at the end of it. Sometimes you will fall off, but it's okay. You will learn something, you will dust it off and get up and then walk that path. So yeah, I've fallen off. I've fallen off several times. Not that everything that I've touched has turned gold. There are many times I've fallen off. But even those have taught me a lot of good lessons to not repeat them again.
Amazing insights, Hema. Well, Hema, you spoke about organizational success being not just dependent upon the processes, but also in bringing together people, right? So, especially now, this logically brings me to another question that I'm going to ask you. which may interest the millennials, right? So, dealing with the millennial workforce has become a different ball game as the young generation prefers working work-life balance and flexible schedules and telecommuting. So, what are the principles you suggest for fluid task management with gig economy?
One big thing, I mean, this Zishan, I should answer this with a disclaimer saying I am still new to this. There's a lot for us to discover and learn, and I'm sure over a period of time we'll become masters of it. But one of the earliest success indicators, Zishan, is about creating a culture of empowerment and trust, right? When we were young in our careers or when we became early leaders and managers, what was taught to us was about, obviously planning, organizing, delegating. But a lot of our delegation was dealt with really having our teams physically around. Therefore, we knew who was doing what and to what extent they were doing, and accordingly keep delegating more and more, right? That was the way we were all brought up as leaders. But today, when you're looking at a hybrid environment, when you're looking at this whole remote space, there is no way you can really do that kind of management. There's no way that you can micromanage teams, or there is no way you can even ask teams, what are you doing, and really expect to get the right answer every time, right? And millennials, being millennials, they are extremely self-empowered in themselves because of the way they are brought up, the environment in which they grew. And I have two of them at home, so I understand that they need their own space and they dictate how they want to lead their days and their lives. So when you come in from that space where the millennials are, and then you see yourself as a leader within an organization, I think one important skill set that all of us need to exercise today is a huge sense of trust and a huge sense of empowering our people and trusting them that they will do the way you had actually planned them. The other big skill set that I've very early realized on is leaders to be coaches. Leaders, there is this model where leaders can teach your teams, you can mentor your teams, coach your teams. And I would say a large part of the leaders today who are going to manage gig economy players or remote working employees or millennials should use more coaching as a skill uh, as compared to any other delegation or managing mechanism. I think coaching is becoming a key skill. Creating a team that's very empowering and very trustworthy is also another thing, because in a gig economy you're not going to be able to do what you did when you had 10 members reporting into you on a daily basis and telling you this is what they did, because they will not stay with you. They will look for other similar opportunities and other environments that are empowering. So I think, yeah, empowering, trust building, and coaching, these are the three top skills that today's leaders certainly need to have.
Wonderful insights, Hema. Hema, you have contributed a lot profoundly into organizational transformation. And in fact, if you see now, HR function in itself is going a rapid transformation, right? So, how do you see it evolving in the near future, keeping in mind the latest development in artificial intelligence and machine learning on natural language processing?
This is a very popular question these days. Somebody recently asked me, do I believe in artificial intelligence? And my answer is yes, of course, I do believe. And I have a team that works extensively on machine learning and artificial intelligence. And why do I believe in it? Because it's made a lot of my work, which my team also were not interested to do, which was mundane, which was repetitive, which was time consuming, not very interesting. And it's given them so much space to do things that is far more interesting. So I certainly believe in AI and ML. I certainly believe that we should automate wherever we find opportunities to save time, cost, and build efficiency. We should invest in it. But I'm also a firm believer that you can't take the human being out of the organization, because at the end of the day, organization, as we say, is a set of intellectual minds, and not all these minds match 100% of the time across the organization. They never do. There are always variances in the way your belief system is with my belief system, your leadership with my leadership, your priorities versus my priority, your functional strategy versus my functional strategy. There are differences across the organization. And I think HR today is primed to play a very, very important role in trying to minimize these differences, in trying to minimize these frictional elements that can actually potentially take, if you remove them, it can actually take the organization much faster and much forward, from where it is. So I think today HR's role, again, just like as a leader's role as a coach, HR's role today also has transformed into being that of a coach. And Zishan, that is predominantly what I have been doing the last couple of years. If I really look at my own portfolio, I have a team that does, of course, all the important HR elements, like learning or staffing, or compensation or rewards. I also have a team that's invested with automating and digitally transforming HR, not only for India but also for my global team. A lot of time that I'm spending today is really in coaching. Is in coaching young leaders. It's in coaching employees. It's in coaching my own team. That's where I'm seeing that I'm spending a lot more time. And I think one important skill set that HR therefore needs to have is a very high level of empathy. And when I mean empathy, I'm not meaning that softer variety of empathy, which is of I understand you, and that's of course there, that is needed, but it is about feeling empathetic towards the organization and the business. Do you understand your business? Do you understand where your business needs to grow, and what is the business? What is your CTO's ambition? What is your CEO's aspiration? Do you empathize with that? And then can you correlate that with the way you're building talent, with the way you're building talent pipeline, or you're grooming people within the organization? I'm saying empathy from that context. I'm also saying empathy from a employee context. You need to be far more empathetic today. And I can see organizations that have been very empathetic the last 2 years are really having been the winners. They are the ones who have won this whole 2 years. Organizations which were lower on empathy, they lost a lot of people. And once you lose people, what would you do? How would you grow your business, right? So empathy in every which way is a very critical skill, I would say.
These are amazing insights. And I must acknowledge that, Hema, this conversation is really, really inspiring, at least for me, I would say, because I am getting to learn a lot, from the different perspective that you have today, that we are discussing upon. Well, Hema, you have contributed a lot into the people strategy, and your people strategies where you have contributed have proved to be a turnaround for the organizations, right? So, what are the key people strategies which are helping organizations to promote diversity and inclusion?
Key people strategies, I don't think I did any blockbuster transformative things on diversity. Although I must say here that the organization that I work with, Zishan, is a very, very inclusive organization. Right from our CEO downwards, we believe that inclusivity drives our creativity. Diversity drives our innovation. We very clearly have understood that. And therefore, what we've done is, and as a HR leader here in India, my role has been to kind of promote that diversity. How do I build a talent pipeline that is diverse in its thought and its belief systems, and make the environment more inclusive? So like many other HR leaders, who are around here and who probably would have done it, I'm doing the same thing, Zishan. I don't think I'm doing anything very different. We do series of sessions on unconscious bias, which is a very important barrier towards driving diversity and inclusion in organizations. For example, a team leader, if he or she is, or manager is hiring, there is a very strong tendency to hire from the kind of institutions they came in from, or the kind of, they have a certain preference, which are very unconscious, not that they deliberately do it, but there's a certain belief system. Maybe past experiences have built those belief systems. Their past successes or past failures have kind of, firmed up those belief systems. So my role primarily today is to create a forum where we are slowly breaking down these unconscious biases that lie in leaders' minds. We do a series of sessions there. That has certainly helped, because that's helped the diversity population, because they feel very comfortable. They feel comfortable at our workplace. Similarly, we have this, this is very special for me. So for women, especially in India, we have the 6-month maternity leave. So when a woman goes on that maternity leave for 6 months, she is practically lost, because she is right now, her priority is her family, her child. And then she decides to come to work. Guess what? She's even more lost, because by the time she's back to work after that 6 months or 9 months, because they can extend it by another 3 months, the organization itself has shifted. Sometimes the manager changes, the team names change, the policies, the benefits change. Her whole team that she was very fond of and working along with could have moved into different other projects. So for her, it's a completely new world. So we have this beautiful process where we handhold both the manager as well as this woman who is planning her maternity right from the beginning. The moment she decides to share that she is on her, she is on her she's an expectant mother. We have processes built where we coach the leader on what to expect and anticipate. That she'll need flexibility, she will need more sick leaves, she will need more rest days, she will need more flexibility. Two, at the point of when she's planning to return to work, we have literally an onboarding process where we get her reinitiated into the organization, make her comfortable around the whole organization so that she is able to perform to her best. Now, these are very small, tactical things that we do, but I think as you keep adding these, they become the whole. So for example, for LGBTQ, we have a Pride committee in place. And this is a completely voluntary body of our employees who have come in together. They meet up regularly. They have a Pride page where they keep putting out information, putting out stories, putting out a lot of tidbits that would open eyes for people who are not of that community. It's more about learning, it's more about understanding. So they manage that portfolio. They also do a lot of Pride educational events occasionally to just sensitize the organization, not about anything else, but to just make people like, perhaps me, be more aware. So now slowly we have more allies who have come forward and say, hey, I want to be an ally with LGBTQ, and I want to be in a position to mentor them. So it's these small things that make up our diversity and inclusion portfolio richer. Similarly, the third thing we have is for millennials. We have a club, a voluntary club called as Lennox Young Professionals Association, which is a global voluntary body. We have it even in our corporate, office. But here they do more work towards educating about millennial preferences. So we do reverse mentoring. So some of them who are very young in their early 20s, they mentor people like me, on what are things that they like, how do they want to be communicated with, how do they want to be empowered, so there's a lot of learning we get when we go for these reverse mentoring programs with them. So I think all these make up the way we are transforming or slowly making the organization more inclusive.
These are wonderful initiatives taken by you as an organization, I must say, Hema. Hema, that logically brings me to another question, which is more of a interest to all the future thought leaders, right? So the aspiring future thought leaders would like to learn from the mistakes, right? So can you share some mistakes that future thought leaders must avoid aligning their goals better?
Absolutely. And I've made this, you sometimes, when you have success coming one after another, Zishan, you reach a point where you feel nobody can touch you. And you reach a point where you feel, everything that you touch will turn gold. And that's when you make the first mistake. So I think one very important, I know this is part of our culture, if you read any of our scriptures, this will be written there. Aham is a very important element we should be conscious of. And that's something I just want to pass along, that be very cautious, sometimes without you realizing, your team may realize that you have, you have, I hate to use the word arrogant, but I think that best fits in there, because you become arrogant around your success, and you don't turn back to realize how your team is relating to you, or how your team is reacting to your newfound arrogance, right? You should be very conscious of that. And we have enough case studies. If you read through each of our corporate case studies, you'll find enough case studies where leaders who have gone that path, and how it's hampered organizations, how it has completely brought down the culture of organizations. So that is something that I'd like to share. The other thing is, there comes a point when you stop learning, because now you feel you've had it all and you stop learning. And there are two ways we stop learning. One is we think, oh, our team members, I have a team member who's strong in digital transformation, so I don't need to learn about it. I don't need to know about it. That's one way of looking at it. Another way you stop learning is you just feel you've had it all. You've got all the skills to make it to the top. And little do you realize, there's a young 27-year-old who is far more intelligent, far more brighter and smarter, who can actually fit into your shoes, much early on. So I think these two things are some things I personally am very cautious about. I feel, so there's always a very healthy anxiety in me, much to the joke of some of my senior leaders. They say, Hema, why are you always so anxious? But I guess that anxiety has helped me. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me on the ground.
Definitely. In fact, I must also say that anxiety helps, for you to be on your toes all the time, right? So, great. Hema, we have been building this community of global thought leaders for cross-pollination of knowledge, information, ideas, thoughts. What are your thoughts about this initiative that we have taken?
Fantastic initiative, and both of you are very enterprising people, really go-getters and extremely persuasive. That's something, I think I told you the last time we met also. I've enjoyed every interaction with both of you, and I think with both Havel and Zishan at the helm of it, I at least feel extremely comfortable. I literally, just listen to them and say, okay, let's go ahead and do this. We need these communities, Zishan. While there are many communities out there, and there are many social platforms today that allow us to network, allow us to interact, and allow us to learn. There is never, there's never an excess of these. There can never be an excess of this, simply because there's so many kinds of people there. There's just so many kinds of leadership thoughts going around there, and you guys are trying to create a niche of your own, and that niche is also something that businesses require leaders like this. Personally, I'm myself part of a couple of networking organizations which help groom leadership. One, of course, which you have mentioned, is CII, the Indian Women Network, where we do a lot of mentoring for women leaders. Likewise, I'm part of a couple of bouncing boards or mentoring boards where I network. But again, maybe I'm biased towards women. Not all women really put themselves out to access networking events or access mentoring events. There is still a level of conservatism in their mind. Not everybody comes. Those who come along, we know them, and they far succeed. But there are many, many out there who are extremely brilliant and extremely talented, but hesitate to come out, right? So I hope with both of you, the kind of comfort you give, you will get more of such leaders come out and speak out. And the best thing now is, with all these technical things like Zoom and Teams and WebEx, you can access to the nook and corners of the world. You're not restricted to a particular location. Look at this, you are in Mumbai and I'm in Chennai, and we're still doing this. So that's fantastic. So Hope you flourish and may this tribe grow.
Well, thank you so much, Hema, for this wonderful conversation, I would say. Yes, rightly, Zishan also mentioned whilst the conversation was on that there is a lot of learning from this interview that's happening right now. Few things in spotlight to all my viewers. We learn a lot. We learn new things, and we also learn more and how to adapt and be ready for new change that's coming your way, right? Rightly said by Hema, one very important line and first line that I made note in today's spotlight is change is part of an organic growth of any organization. And I believe that everyone should be ready and open for any kind of change that comes in your way, right? Another spotlight for me is a leader should be a good coach and a mentor for their team. Like rather saying anything to your team, coach them in a way. And comfort is something that's really, really important for all the leader to ensure that their employee is fine when he or she is at work. Well, a lot of things to learn from today's interview. Last 2 points that I really like that is very close to my heart is team plays very important role when a leader is successful. So whenever you find any leader holding an award, he'll definitely mention that this credit goes to my team. So absolutely take care of your team, take care of your people, and you will see a lot of success coming your way. And lastly, be open to learn new things. Many more to learn from this interview session with Hema Mani today. I'm sure all our viewers will learn something new and future leaders will definitely get inspired by the lessons of Hema Mani. Thank you so much, Hema, for giving your valuable time today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zishan and Havel, and stay safe. It was wonderful catching up with both of you, and hopefully we get to meet in person. Thank you.
Thank you. We are privileged.